All right, hello everyone. This is going out, I'm recording this just before I make my proliferation of the modern EV video public. And I will acknowledge, and I'm just about to set it public now, I will acknowledge that it did end up sort of being in the aggregate kind of an anti-EV rant. But I would say, I did want to say before I go on, I do think that there's a place for electric vehicles, for sure. Golf courses. No, I'm kidding. But really, you know, I did mention in the video sort of the urban sprawl areas, the urban centers and whatnot. It would really clean up that sort of local environment, right, for people. And it's completely viable in those scenarios, again, given sorting out the various issues with charging and fire safety and things like that. So I'm certainly not anti-EV. But I was thinking a lot more about the whole idea of the virtue signal and how quickly the virtue signal seems to disappear for people once they get the car. Or it doesn't disappear, it changes. Suddenly we're showing off the car. Suddenly we're taking people for rides and making videos scaring grandma, right? Because they don't realize the acceleration they're going to be subjected to. And everybody's oohing and awing and wowing about how quiet it is inside and how many neat features it's got and how it's got this huge screen, which is ridiculous. The screen's got to go. The screens are a danger, actually. It should be knob per function for almost all controls, right? They've done studies on driver distraction, and screens are distracting. Because nobody can remember all the menu. The menu diving is a safety hazard. How is that not acknowledged and openly rallied against, right? But think about what happened in the late 60s and the early 70s with cars, especially during the oil embargo. Car companies did advertise bare bones utilitarian cars as such. In a lot of the vehicles they ended up putting, even in the bigger cars, they put economy gauges. They were basically a vacuum gauge, right? They were putting vacuum gauges in cars showing when you were using more fuel than not. And of course, a vacuum gauge, really it's just tethered to your foot, not exactly, but basically, essentially tethered to your foot. So you don't really need the vacuum gauge. All you need to do is notice how much gas you're giving it, but I digress. And yes, of course, modern EVs do actually have, the green leaf thing happening on the dashboard to show you if you're in economy or not. And by the way, not to be a stickler or anything, but the whole idea that this is somehow green, this is a green movement. It's a brown movement. Carbon dioxide is plant fuel. Do you need to know that? And so, desertification, I think, starts somewhere around 270 or 280 parts per million CO2 concentration. And so, it's one of my pet peeves, of course, about the whole climate change scenario is the narrative is always, it's all downside and there's no upside. And it's the same thing with other things, certain medical interventions or whatnot. When they tell you it's all upside and there's no downside, you're probably being lied to because, of course, that's not how things work. We have a very complex world and these systems are very complex. And so when you say that, increased CO2 only has downsides, well, there is an upside. If you actually care about plant life, it's better for plant life, and we've had an overall greening of the planet. But I digress. But I thought a lot about how they used to advertise some of these vehicles, and they did actually often emphasize the frugal nature of them. I used to collect auto ads, and I view them online from time to time, and it's actually quite a contrast to, I think, all of the automotive ads that I've seen recently. And I was thinking about the way people virtue signal. I thought, what a difference it would be. Just imagine if people were virtue signaling, how environmentally responsible they were being with their car choice, and they would leave it parked outside the garage. Those were some of the ads that they used to put in the 60s and the 70s. We park outside the garage because we want the neighbors to see the car. Imagine that, right? If that was the virtue signal, that we're showing off how utilitarian we can go and how responsible we're being. And that's really not what's happening. Even if the intent was sort of virtuous in the beginning, people really deciding to buy a car, for the right reasons, as they say. Anyway, like I said, it really wasn't intended to be an anti-EV rant, although the problems, the issues are numerous. So it sort of ends up becoming that by default. But again, like I said, golf courses, thanks for watching.